Blake, have you ever been locked in the back of one of our trucks on a gear run?
This is why I don't go on gear runs with you anymore.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech director out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, the only person at Church Gear who has fled a building during a bomb threat. And I'm here with my boss, who is the bomb, Toby Walters.
It's usually pronounced da-bomb.
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 Like da-baby.
Da-baby? I don't know what that is.
Ah, there we go. Pop culture that Toby doesn't know. It's just, rap stuff.
Is that like Rugrats or something stupid?
No, it's his app on the Riz rap.
Have you asked anyone else at the company if they've fled a building from a bomb threat?
Everyone's alive, so I assume they haven't done it.
And maybe this was much more of like a 1980s thing. We'll have to ask some of our older crew. But there were bomb threats, not like regularly, but there was a handful of times in elementary school a bomb threat was called in from a payphone. Do you know what a payphone is, Blake?
I do. That's the stuff that shady characters in movies use.
That's right. But somebody would, call in a fake bomb threat, and we'd all have to file out, and we do drills for this, but it happened every now and then.
All right, well, amend them. Me and Toby, the only people who do flee a building. I fled, though. Filing out and fleeing, I was sprinting. So,
well, you're a crazy person, so I could see.
Well, this is how. So apparently, in all of Union's campus, the lady, they would be like, "Hey, there's been a bomb threat. You need to leave." The lady who came in my room, just like busted up in my room, was like, "There's been a bomb threat. Evacuate now!" And so, that put us all at 11.
Did you throw women and children out of the way while you?
No, I assembled my crew. We ran around the building. I was cutting corners, looking like each time we would cut, and then we got outside. I went, "Wait." Everyone says that they call in bomb threats to actually have shooters outside to shoot you once you flee the building. Everyone run in a zigzag. So my crew takes off in a zigzag. Well, my buddy who's teaching me accounting is in the back of the line. And I'm like, "Alan, catch up." He's not taking it seriously. Well, then I see this girl that I kind of know, her sister, because I work with her, driving out of the campus. And I go, "Wait, we're going with you." I barely know this woman. We all pile in the car. Alan's lagging behind. I go, "Leave Alan behind." So we left him there. And he wasn't taking it seriously. So
I am officially more afraid of your reaction to the bomb threat than I am the bomb threat.
Look, the moral of the story is keep up with me and you will be safe. I got us off campus to an undisclosed location.
And for our listeners who don't know, Blake is odd to say the least, as we've
interesting and odd are call signs
established. But you were scared of everything. And so when we record podcasts, when we used to record them at your house, Blake, it'd be the middle of the day and you would open the front door, I would come in, then you would close the front door, double lock the front door, and engage the alarm.
Well, you said in the middle of the day, like criminals don't come in at night. Anyways, I've derailed us.
There are two capable male adults inside a house in the middle of the day, and you're engaging the alarm?
Yes.
That's the work of a crazy person.
Well, what can I say? I'm a crazy artist. Here we go.
Let's go to some more normal people.
Yeah, let's transition here.
Our friends at Elevation.
Yep.
We got to go to Elevation at the beginning of this year, and apparently Elevation has gear. Who would have thought? But so we went there, and we also decided we're going to do a little bit of filming so we can kind of, who more notable in the church world in this current climate than Elevation? So we thought, hey guys, do you mind if we get some footage of our time with you? And they said, absolutely. They were super hospitable.
They said,
because
you'll never use it anyways. And they're right. It's been sitting in a Google Doc forever.
It's going to be used.
Let's hope so.
It's somewhere in the ethersphere.
I like that.
So as we're getting footage, we hired just a freelance video guy out in Charlotte, and he was awesome. And he got 3 hours of footage, but we wanted to get some footage of the gear in the back of the truck and kind of tell the story. It's like we show up at a church, we partner with them, and we purchase their gear, then we load it up. And then the next step is the gear literally drives in a truck back to the Church Gear headquarters. And so we wanted some footage in the back of the truck showing the gear moving around. Kind of, we could even do shaky camera work a little bit to show it's bouncing around gently in the back of the truck. Very gently, by the way, so that we can resell it with good conscience. But the video guy said, sure, no problem. I'll hop in the back of the truck. Why don't you drive it around the parking lot? And then one of the elevation crews, one of their video guys, hopped in and said, well, I'll just stand behind you and hold you. And I said, okay, is there anything illegal about this? Because I'm about to shut this door. And so we're driving around with our video guy and one of the elevation guys.
Video guy who we just met that day.
Yeah, just locked in the back of our truck. And Jonah is driving, and I'm like, dude, there's 2 guys locked in the back of our truck, so,
So they work
gently.
for us now. We just drove to Nashville and,
So, the best thing we got from Elevation, I mean, obviously the gear, but, stealing one of their video guys was amazing, which I think probably this other guest is going to be upset about, but I'm cool with it.
I bet he's going to wish that he was in the truck. So now it's time to bring in the previous production guy at Elevation Church, Zach Kimrey. Hey, man, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Man, that's been a killer intro, and I just like sitting here quietly listening to y'all talking about the bomb threats. Man, I remember that from back in the middle school, and I'm fully with you. Like, I was always like, they're not going to put a bomb in the building. They're going to put a bomb in the bleachers on the football stands where we all go, because it felt like weekly there was a bomb threat. And it's like, if anyone wants to hurt someone, they're going to do some research and do this. So I was like, this is amazing. I totally remember the bomb threat days in school.
How old are you?
I am 35.
35. Okay, so you're right in the middle of me and Toby then. Golly, I'm glad I'm 29. I'm glad I was on the lower end of that scale and only had that happen once, because my nerves couldn't take that multiple times.
And I like how we're assuming that the guy who calls in the bomb threat is thinking ahead far enough to put it in the bleachers, knowing where the kids are going to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
That's true.
Here's the thing they don't tell you about when they do, like, here's the gun safety measures. Think about it like this. They're telling that to the kids in the classrooms. Who's the person that normally shoots up the classrooms? One of the kids. They gave them the plan. They know. So that's
right.
terrifying.
And Blake, with, if a bomb threat was called into a podcast recording and the door is locked and the alarm is on, we might not have time to escape.
Toby, you're acting like I don't know every exit here, and I haven't checked every inch of this building for a bomb already.
And when, Zach, when we started recording this morning, Blake locked the door to the podcast room. But the funny thing is that there's literally an opening in the room with a sound blanket on it that goes into the next room where the door is wide open.
That's funny.
It's 2 blankets. They're heavy. It would take a lot of effort to get under that.
A lot of effort.
Well, then you have to think about what's worse, someone opening the door while you're recording or someone beating on the door because it's locked while you're recording.
That's a good point. See, Blake doesn't think in like practical terms.
Look, I would take my, throat coat tee, toss it at him, and then that would give me enough time to charge him so I could save Toby's life.
There's one of our favorite Blake moments is at our last warehouse. It's like a pole barn, and so there's a huge garage door, and it's like 20 feet wide, and there is a just normal side door, just a standard size door. And so Blake shows up to the warehouse one morning, and he walks in the side door, the standard door. He closes the door and locks it. And then Brian, our tech director, looks at him, and he's like, oh, I'm so glad you locked the door, seeing as the 20-foot wide garage door is wide open, like 6 inches away.
Amazing.
Look, when people lead their assault on Church Gear headquarters, I want to funnel them as much as I can. I took out at least, 3 feet of space. Whatever. All right.
You're funny. So Andy Bentley will be proud of me for saying this, but you guys definitely need to play Keep Talking and No One Explodes. If you haven't, just Google it when you get done. I apologize. You're not going to get anything else done today once you find this game. I'm everything you said so far, Blake, your day is screwed once you find this game.
Well, that actually makes sense because
Keep talking so no one explodes.
Now Toby's Googling it. I am more of a results guy, not an inputs guy. So, if I get a good podcast episode today, I'm done for the day anyways. Recording on a Friday.
It's a game.
My boss doesn't know what I do. Okay.
You got to put in your 80 hours. You're fired.
Well, I already put in 100 yesterday. Okay, so let's do our 5 truths and a lie. All right. Actually, I think this is...
He only put 5 down here. Did
This
he
is-
do 4 truths and a lie?
Yeah, so we've got a better odds at winning now,
Maybe he's
Toast.
the first one ever to do all lies.
We keep throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Number 1, I started out doing audio.
I hope that's a lie because that's going to go really poorly for you later on, Blake. I've got a little surprise for you.
This is not good.
I know.
New space. Stephen Brewster talked on his episode about doing new things will inspire new creativity. And this new room has inspired a lot of new segments for Toby. Number 2, I have a broken toe. He's sitting down.
Currently?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Number 3, I love to ski. Number 4, I hate speaking in front of people. Zach, you've got a great voice though. Why do you hate speaking in front of
I
people?
don't know. I'm just not on stage in front of people type of person.
Well, how do you feel about this podcast that goes out to millions?
Yeah, no one sees me. Y'all see me, but that's about it. And,
We're screenshotting this whole thing and putting it up.
Perfect. I don't know. It's just weird being live in front of people. It's just like, I don't know.
Toby, I don't know how to feel right now because Zach has got a great voice. He's very good looking, doesn't want to be on stage. Meanwhile, my pudgy body just flying on stage if I can. So
You're like the male embodiment of Miss Piggy.
oh my gosh, that's actually I might go for that as Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 5. My favorite hobby is rock climbing. Oh, he totally looks like a rock climbing guy. I'm marking that off. That's not one of the lies.
I mean, we only see his shoulders, but man, those are like Fabio shoulders
and
right
that
there.
is how he broke his toe. So
That makes sense.
I will say this. I have broken a toe. So I
Oh.
don't currently have a broken toe. I guess I gave that one away, didn't I? Yeah. So that one's the truth. Never mind.
all right, now he just outed himself.
Done.
I had that one already, pegged though. I'm gonna say I love to ski. He doesn't live in a skiing area.
See, I feel like that's probably the lie as well, but I'm going to go with started out in audio because I hope that that's a lie. Just for your sake later on, Blake.
Oh my gosh, what have you cooked up? All right, Zach, we're locking in. Toby's got audio. I've got ski.
All right. Well, the lie is I love to ski because I actually hate skiing and I love snowboarding.
All
And
right.
That's the best thing I could do to give up. So that kind of flips everything for you. So in the winter, in the terrible North Carolina snow, what we call snow, which is frozen granular, which is mostly man-made ice pellets, we like to go snowboarding in the winter.
I finally got one right.
It was kind of a trick question.
And I'd like to point out that I thought that was the right answer as well, but I was looking out for you, Blake.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm always looking out for you.
Always looking out for me as he pushes me down the stairs.
Now, Zach, you started telling us some stories before we hit record, and we're like, whoa, this is some interesting stuff. So it is early on a Friday morning, and you're a bit tired because what'd you have going on last night?
Well, last night my wife and I went and saw Luke Combs. So he did an Apple Music special that's going to air, I think, on August 24th. So Apple Music was in Charlotte capturing a concert at Coyote Joe's. Coyote Joe's, if you're not familiar with Charlotte, is the local legendary honky tonk, for lack of a better term. Like literally every week on Wednesdays, they do line dancing, like that type of place. And I'm really good friends with one of the guys on his crew, Dan. So Dan texted, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town in a couple weeks," and we had no idea at this point that it was a show because it had not been announced. He's like, "I'd love to hang out." So we went out, we went out the night before because he was in town from loading in. But he texted me, I guess on Tuesday, and was like, "Hey, by the way, we're in town for a show. You and Kim want tickets." And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course we want tickets." I'm a huge Luke Combs fan. And so we get there, have terrible parking experience, because Coyote Joe's is not a place that is made for 3,000 people, which is how many tickets they sold. So we sat in traffic for about 45 minutes, get to the parking lot, and they're just diverting people down the road. And it's pretty much park on your own somewhere in a place that doesn't get towed. So we walk half a mile back down, get to the line for guest check-in.
Is your wife
And what
wearing
Dan-
heels in this story?
Oh, absolutely.
That's a bad
Yeah,
night
yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Are you wearing heels in this story?
I mean, I have my boots on at least.
All right.
But, they're super comfortable.
My wife almost recently murdered Jeremy because he made us walk a mile downtown and she was in heels. So, okay, I know where your wife is at in this story. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So we get there, and Dan did not mention to me that I thought we were just getting, passes, general admission passes getting in. Well, Dan put us on the VIP list. So we walk right in. We bypass the line that's, literally probably 1,000 people long. Walk right in. And I go up to a guy that's guarding a stairwell because at this point I've sat in traffic for 45 minutes, walked another 10 minutes, and I just need to pee. And I was like, where is the bathroom at? He's like, there's some over there. He goes, oh, wait, you have a green wristband. You're VIP. There's bathrooms up there. You're supposed to be up here. So we go upstairs to this upper balcony area, bathrooms, open bar, food. Like Dan hooked us up and we had no idea. So we had a great time. Let's just say that. And, so late night, early morning, because the alarm still goes off. The boys have got to get to summer camp. Kim's going to work. And I had to, take a ladder that I had at my house for one of our guys to be on a job site this morning. So, late night, early morning reminded me of the old production days.
And Blake, I just want to, out myself that I know who Luke Combs is only because a few months ago, Sarah, who works with us, said, I'm going to go see Luke Combs. And I said, who's that?
Well, and
terrible.
Did Luke Combs feel weird and self-conscious that Josh Turner was watching his show? Because
that maybe, probably not though.
I'm just saying. I don't know that you're really Zach Kimrey. Okay, so let's do some questions, Toby. Hit him with this first one.
Well, your interview questions, the first one says elevation time. And so all of a sudden I'm imagining like the elevation tour. And at the beginning, it's like, it's elevation time.
Oh, like a WWE wrestling match?
Yeah, totally. Okay. So, imagine that's your theme song for elevation time. But talk to us about your history at Elevation. How'd you get started there? How'd you get connected?
Yeah, so before I was on staff at Elevation, I worked for a production company in Charlotte. And that was right around the time I started there in 2006, right around the time when Elevation started up. And I don't remember how we at that company got connected with Wes Watson, who was on staff at Elevation at the time, but we started doing all the random rentals because when, Elevation was starting up years ago, they didn't have gear. They had very minimal stuff. So they needed to do an event or anything like that. They would hire us to either come do the event or just rent the gear from us. And when it came around, I always get confused on the first year that it was. I can't remember if it was 2007 or 2008, but they did the very first Uptown Christmas because Elevation had, for lack of a better term, blown up enough that you couldn't. Doing Christmas at Elevation in the high school campuses, they'd had to have done 1 million services. So they rented out a theater to the point that it's, I think Belk is like 2,000 seats. They did either 2 or 3 experiences for Christmas Eve. And this was back in like I said, 2007 or 2008. But I worked for this company and I specifically remember looking the owner of the company in the face and saying, there's no way in I'm working on Christmas Eve for some random church. It's like, I have traditions with my family. I mean, at this point I'm like 22, maybe, but young. And I've done the same thing on Christmas Eve for the entirety of my life. And I'm like, there's no way I'm working on Christmas Eve. Literally said that to his face. Well, that was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life, was doing Elevation. And I was hooked. And I guess that was early enough. Yeah. My girlfriend at the time, we started attending Elevation and going and ultimately volunteered and then contracted with them. And then in 2015 came on staff at Elevation. So, there's kind of the story of it. Worked in live production for years and did a lot of Elevation events. I mean, to this day, if someone asks me what, like, if there's a milestone event in my career, even pre-Elevation at that company, it would be Easter at the Arena, where a church in Charlotte in 2010 filled 16,000 seats on Easter Sunday for an experience. And I was sitting behind a lighting console with the rig that I helped design doing that. And so that's like just one of those core memories that you just will never forget. You sitting there doing something like that. So, yeah.
And how often did you tell Furtick, there's no way in doing that?
I never really had to say that to Furtick. There were a lot of other people as years went on at Elevation. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. One of the funniest things, Joe Lack, y'all obviously know Joe Lack very well at this point because you bought tons of gear from him.
Thanks, Joe.
He told me one day, he was like, yep. He's like, it's not a true Elevation meeting with Kimrey in it until Kimrey cusses.
Oh, that's like, hilarious.
That's fun. I wore my feelings on my shoulders a lot of days, and that helped me become who I was at Elevation, and it was just people respected me, but I also respected a lot of people there too, and it was mutual for a lot of people.
So Blake, I'm wondering if we're going to have to do some fine editing, or what do they call it, bleeping out?
I do think that would be funny
if we spirited enough.
Yep.
Well, I want to come back to the question in just a minute of the we're not going to do that, because I think that's a great topic to discuss. But I totally echo what you're saying about the arena Easter. So Austin Stone Church out in Austin, Texas, I was not on staff or part of the production crew at all, but my wife and I attended there. And I think it was 2008. No, it was later it might have been 2010. 2011, and they rented out the arena at the University of Texas. And I don't know if you know Todd Hartman, he's with D&B now, but he literally wrote an article in like Pro Sound Web on the setup that they did for that service. And they had, 16, 17,000 people in this arena. And that is an unbelievable experience to see all the campuses of a church come together in this magical moment, and to hear worship like that is, and I'm assuming that was pre-Elevation tour days, so it was almost like a little preview of what was to come. So going back to that, you said, you have many times said, we're not doing that. We talk about this a lot.
Which is what Toby says to any idea I ever have.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. Like turning on the alarm when two grown men are inside a house in the middle of the day.
Or starting a podcast.
So can you give some advice and wisdom to other tech directors that really struggle with saying, we're not going to do that, even though they know in their heart that will kill us?
And like identifying when you say it, when you don't, how you say it. I mean, it seems to be one of the biggest skills. Like, honestly, if there was a church tech director college, there could almost be a whole class on this.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is you have to build a relationship with the people that are making these requests. You can't, and it goes both ways. The thing that would get me is when new people would come in and be on a team, and they're like, "Oh, we want to do this," and I'm just like, "I literally don't know your name, like at all. You're asking for the world. You don't know what it takes. You're not getting that." But then with reputable people, it is just like, it's a conversation. There were many times, and a lot of people probably don't even know this, there were many times I would have conversations with Chunk Scorbett, the CFO, and he was like, "Hey, I want to do this." And I'm like, "All right, well, we can do this, X, Y, Z." He goes, "Is this going to kill the team to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's going to suck." He goes, "Oh, forget it." But that's built after years of busting my ass to get things done for certain people. There's a lot of days where tasks really, you may not want to do a task, but it's not that bad. It's like, suck it up. This is your job. Get it done. You are in a position to take the gear that has been given to you and stretch it. So stretch it, and that builds your relationship with people that will then later down the road understand when you say no, or say no and give an explanation of why. Hey, it's going to take this many man hours to do this. We've already worked this many hours this week. Is it really going to give that much of an impact, or is this just an idea that you had? And like I said, it just comes down to relationships, and you need to build those so that it is easier to have hard conversations. There's a lot of teams, and even at Elevation, it went in seasons of people would ask me, like, "Who's your least favorite team right now?" And it did. It would change. There would be seasons where I didn't want to do anything with Elevation Worship because we were in so many. It's like, "Oh, we literally did a live recording last week. Why are we going to do one tomorrow?" Like, not really, but that's the way it felt. Or the youth team. Like the youth team, Tim Summers, man, like, he's a freaking nut. His ideas are huge. and it's addictive, especially for someone like me who is so tailored to using gear and getting things done. I think that's why I'll still say the live stream last year for YouthX, 168 hours, was one of the greatest, worst things I've ever said yes to. That personally made me grow and made me learn what I was capable of. And it was cool to see what other people were capable of and the building was capable of. But there's no way I'd ever do that again. Like, and I don't think anyone else would. And even Tim would say that, like, no, we'll never do that again. But, you know, it just comes down to relationships and building those so that you can say no and have conversations. And I think the biggest thing is just don't say no without having a conversation about it. Let people know why, but make sure your why is actually legit and not just, I don't know, we're lazy, you know, because some people can come across that way and it's just like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, why?
So, Blake, are you one of the greatest, worst things I've ever said yes to?
Toby, you believe me when I say I was ready to fire that out.
I knew you were, and I was going to beat you to it.
I'm glad you
did. I like
did.
beating you to everything in life.
Well, there was one episode where you got 3 of what I was going to say in a row in like 10 minutes, and I'm still mad about that. But
I mean, your brain pretty much just projects on the wall, and I cover my eyes for 99% of it, but then the little interesting tidbits, I'm like, oh, I'll say that first. But Zach, does the conversation and the, you know, saying no get very different when it's your pastor or your like direct report, your spiritual leader at the church? Do those conversations become a different approach for you?
Yeah, I think so. You know, at least with Elevation, a lot of ideas as the church grew didn't really come from pastor. It was cool to see him go from being so involved to stepping back because he had built a team of people that he trusted. It was always nice to get a text from pastor and say, that was awesome, when he would walk into a room and sit through an experience or an opener and have done nothing with it. And just to get either the text directly or someone else got it from him and then it gets relayed. Because that was something that was done very well, is like people were given appreciation, you know, when things were said from the top, to make sure that, hey, the work you put into this matters.
that's so great. It's nice to feel appreciation. I don't know what that feels like. I've heard though it's nice.
I mean, ask the other guys at Church Gear, and you'll hear it is nice, Blake.
There we go.
And maybe one day you'll learn it too.
Maybe I'll get a good boy eventually. So you said you started out in audio. How'd you make the jump to video?
What do we want to talk about? The jump to lighting before video?
Hang on, have you done all 3 AVL?
I have done all 3.
Sounds like ALV is the.
Yeah, you should get that tattooed on the back of your neck.
That's true.
Why is
Yeah,
neck?
I started out doing. I should get the tattoo. I'll get it and send you guys a picture. Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. That would be funny though.
That's when he's going to say no to. No way.
Yeah,
All right.
we're not doing that.
So how long did you do audio, and then how much time did you go to lighting?
Yeah, so I started doing audio at my parents' church. I don't remember what year that was, but started, and by audio, you know, pastor a podium mic on Sunday morning, but then got into mixing the youth band as well, because that was the age I was in. I was in high school at the time. Did all the youth camps that we did, the winter retreats, the Sunday morning and Sunday evening and Wednesday evening, whatever we were doing with youth. And then when I got the job before Elevation, I just, you know, I had basic audio experience. Let's just say that, but knew, like, had figured out systems and built systems and that type of thing. But then there was no like lighting lead, and for whatever, it caught my eye. And it sounded fun, and I kind of jumped into lighting and learned it from the ground up there, and did lighting for years, but also could mix if I needed to. Now, I'm not an engineer that's going to go out and mix a band at this point. Like that's not me. I was never that. I'll say that. I joke and say, even like I would call if I had an actual audio question and I was curious about something that someone had said and wanted another opinion, I would pick up the phone and call Lee Fields or Corey Edwards. Like that's where I am with audio, even to this day. And then when I came on staff at Elevation, we were in the process of building Ballantine, and it kind of just fell into my lap to become the building engineer. And with Ballantine, there was a very heavy video infrastructure. And so I was pretty much, it was dropped into my lap and forced to learn. So, watching videos, reading manuals, making friends and calling people and learning. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is you can learn a lot by picking up the manual. And so many people struggle with that. And I love going on a certain Facebook group because it's very funny and it's not negative towards people who don't know, but it's like, don't post on that Facebook group if you don't understand something. Did you read the manual? Did you call support? That type of thing. So yeah, audio to lighting to video.
So talk to us about kind of the current production setup at Elevation and what goes into a live production for Elevation, because I know it's light years ahead of where you started at your parents' church.
Yeah. So live production at Elevation is it's a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people involved. There's planning that goes into it. The production directors there, Jared and Rachel, manage. Well, I guess Nick Bailey now. Jared transitioned, and Jared's he's the broadcast producer, so he kind of oversees everything. And then Rachel oversees online, and Nick oversees everything, and Ballantine in the room. And it's a lot, and they do a great job of managing the people and the teams and the volunteers. The Andy and Justin and Matt, all on the tech team there, they do interface with the volunteers. I shouldn't say that they don't, but they're responsible for making sure that when a volunteer goes to press a button, that button does what it's supposed to do. It's a very, very high level gear there that you can't just throw someone in without making sure that it works. So they do a great job of making sure that the gears that's there works and helping train people as needed.
And talk to us about specifically the gear, like how many camera shoots you doing Sunday morning versus a live, music video, what types of cameras, switchers, all that stuff, since we all know the production setup's really cool over there.
For sure. So the live, let's do Sunday morning, because live recordings can definitely be a total different animal. But Sunday mornings, they're running 8 Varicams. 6 to 7 are in the auditorium, and then 1 to 2 they'll roll them around. So there's a camera that's kind of like a utility that'll go between the auditorium and the online sets. So 6 to 7 in the auditorium for worship and sermon, and then 1 to 2 Varicams for online for all those sets. And then there's also an additional 4 Panasonic 3500s that are the old broadcast cameras that are used for online sets. So I mean, in total at Ballantine on a Sunday morning, they'll use up to 12 cameras. If they've got remote sites, if they're broadcasting from somewhere remote, they could have 2 to 3 remote feeds coming back in. So, it adds up quickly. Easily a Sunday morning at Elevation Ballantine, there could be 15 inputs plus hitting the acuity. And so yeah, Ross Acuity for the switcher there. Evertz EQX16 video router, Evertz EMR MADI router, Evertz multi-viewers, front of house and monitors are both SD10s with an SD5 in broadcast, and then also an SD8 in broadcast doing all the host mic mixing, video mixing, IFBs for the online segments. And then lighting's a Grand MA3 with a bunch of EL4000s, quantum washes, and Viper washes.
Granny Mae, don't you mean grandma?
Yeah, exactly.
And what was your typical role on a Sunday morning? Are you calling the shots?
On a Sunday morning, the best way to put it, on a good Sunday morning, I would be sitting in master control with my feet kicked up, waiting and hoping that there are no fires to be put out.
But how often did that actually happen?
It depended. It was not normally this failed or this didn't work, but we need to pivot really quickly and do this for online because the building's full of people and there's triple overflow in the lobby. So we need to break down this entire set with mics and IFBs and lights and 2 cameras and a desk, and we need to put it outside. Oh, and we need to do that in 5 minutes and be back on air. That was a lot of what the weekend was for me. During the week was when we would maintain gear and clean it and build new workflows and do run throughs and that type of thing. So Sunday mornings, was more of a hurry up and wait kind of thing.
That's great. So, Blake, I'm going to apologize ahead of time.
Here we go. Your surprise is triggering now, isn't it?
I really like to play this game where I pit the guest against Blake in a knowledge category. And so I thought, hey, we got a video guy from Elevation. And Blake has worked here almost 2 years now, so I hope he's learned something. Let's pit the video guy and Blake against each other in audio knowledge.
Oh, no. But you started out in audio.
But he said he was, he still has to call Lee and Corey to get,
Do I get to call Lee and Corey live on the show?
That would be funny if you got a lifeline, but we don't have Lee or Corey available.
I think I have one of their numbers.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a question, and you see if it can answer, and it might be very quickly, Zach, that you realize you have to give Blake like a 30-minute head start to read the manual on Google.
Oh,
but
no.
We'll see how you do, Blake.
Here we go.
Are we ready? Okay. Made famous, well, not made famous, but famously beloved by Bono. Who's Bono, Blake?
The guy from U2.
Wow. Okay.
Finally got it.
That's mostly right. What is an SM58?
A microphone.
Hey, you got one. Okay. And Zach, I'm just assuming you gave that to him.
He's smiling so big.
Okay. What manufacturer makes an M7CL?
Sure.
Zach?
Yamaha.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to. I know. In retrospect, if I thought about that, I was trying to go, quick draw.
Okay. What type of gear is a DBX 166?
Rack gear.
More specific, Blake.
Outboard gear.
What kind of rack gear? A category.
I don't know.
Equalizers. There are effects units. A DBX 166 is a...
I feel like Zach should get the answer now because I've,
floundered
shot out
long enough.
Twice.
What's the answer, Zach?
Compressor.
Yes, correct.
He's just like stoned. He's waiting to watch me screw up the answer before he gives the good one.
I'm curious if you'll get more than one. You do have 1 point on the board for a microphone. An SM58
I should have
is a
got that
microphone.
M7, man.
Okay, what is in inches the most common diameter of a live audio subwoofer driver?
How in the heck would I know this?
We have only thousands of them come through our warehouse every single month. So,
Zach, if you know it, hit me with it.
I mean, I would say 18 inches. That's been around for a while, but there are a lot that are bigger than that now.
18 inches is correct.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. On a typical Elevation tour, Corey Edwards is mixing on what brand of console?
Oh, gosh. I don't know, so I'm going to guess a brand. I'm going to say Yamaha.
Incorrect.
That's definitely wrong.
Does he hate Yamaha?
No. But he is going to blow everyone's mind because he's not even on Digico for this next tour.
Are you allowed to tell us what he's on?
Oh, yeah, he posted about it. He is on a SSL.
Okay.
Well, just make sure you don't got any snow on the roof when you got that SSL installed.
There's a story there. Okay. What portion or pieces of a drum set would typically receive a stereo pair of microphones?
Snare drum.
Incorrect.
Overheads.
Overheads.
Darn it.
Or I would have accepted cymbals. Okay, a couple more. What is DI short for?
Dumb information, which is everything that's been coming out of my mouth for these answers.
Zach, what is a DI?
Man, that's stumped. I'm stumped on what DI is actually for. Direct injection, but I don't think that's it.
I would accept direct input or direct insert.
There we go.
But mega audio guys, I don't know if mega is the right term, but they might light me up for that. That might be wrong. I'll even take a point away from myself because I don't know for sure.
Toby's not even playing the game.
Okay, 2 more. Okay, Blake, which of these wireless frequency ranges are currently legal in the USA? Is it 700 series, 600 series, or 500 series?
700.
Incorrect.
The 600 is not legal, right? Because we've got a ton of those.
Correct.
Okay, so it's 500.
What is you said? I think your question confused me. Which one's legal or illegal?
Which one is legal currently?
Oh, okay, got it. 500.
Correct.
I had a 50-50 shot because I know the 600s are not.
Okay, last question, Blake. I think you can do this one. Which would typically have more knobs, an analog audio console or a digital?
Analog.
Correct.
Okay, let's move on from this.
You got 2 points, Blake. Congratulations.
2 more than any betting person would
After
have.
almost 2 years at Church Gear.
Hey,
That
look,
is your audio knowledge.
I get a point per year.
A point per year. Perfect.
Revisit me in a decade. Before we get to your tech takeaway, I've got one other question. How weird is it being there for church when you used to kind of run the show? So like, if there's ever a flub or something going on, is it like hard to sit still and not feel that anxiousness to fix it?
Oh, 100%. It is so hard when something's going wrong. And being the guy that would get the text when something was going wrong or, hey, this is broke, are y'all fixing it? It's very hard to not send that text. But the nice thing is after doing it for so long, you know the things that need to be texted about and you know the things that the guys already are working on. But yeah, when something happens, it's still, the anxiety is through the roof because it's just like, oh my gosh, I hope they are not that I hope they're working on it. I know they're working on it. It's like, oh, I hope they can get this fixed.
So have there been any moments where you've been texting them like, hey, I think this is the problem?
No, I have not done that. I'll typically text them afterwards of like, hey, what was up with that? Or did you notice this? Like last week, for example, I was so anxious because Justin Wisnett, who mixes front of house, he gets us seats on Sunday mornings because we like to, so many years of not going in with our kids go with us now, and they sit in the auditorium because dad never went to church with the family. And so we get seats behind front of house so that Tucker, because he's so short, he can see. He's 6 years old. So, if he's sitting in normal seating, he can't see, but behind the booth, he can see over Justin. And last week, Pastor decided he was going to go to the back of the auditorium and preach a good segment of his sermon. And I'm like, that is literally the door he went to, literally is the worst place in the room for RF coverage. It's on the back side of the antennas pretty much. And I'm just like, this pit in my stomach for Justin and the rest of the guys of like, oh my God, please do not let this RF drop out on them. And he was up there for probably 20 minutes and they took one drop out of all that. But so yes, the anxiety and the stress is still there, even though it literally is not my problem anymore. All those guys are still really good friends. And at the end of the day, you don't ever want to see anybody fail.
And are you hazing those guys as you're, sitting behind them? Are you, shooting spitballs or sending them texts like I'm back here judging you?
They know I am, so I don't really have to. It's just like this overbearing thing of like, oh, Kimrey's here. Cool. No, I don't haze them, but that is a good point.
That's wild. I've never seen a pastor like literally move around off stage before during a service in all my years. So, man, we end our episode with a tech takeaway every time. So you've got a long range of years to pull from here. So I'm curious to hear what yours is. What would be your tech takeaway for our church techs to make their Sundays better?
There is always going to be someone that is better than you. And it's not a competition. The only person that you need to be better than is yourself yesterday. It's not a fight. It's not a race to get better. It's to be the best that there is. So keep pouring into yourself. Take times to take a breath. I think after so many years of being there, I am renewing myself as a dad and as a husband. because I think I missed out on a lot of my kids' life, especially Tanner, my older one. And it's not against the church. So many people are talking about burnout right now. Burnout is self-induced.
Oh,
If
speak
you
on it.
are getting burnt out and you feel yourself getting burnt out, then ask for help. Go to your supervisor, go to your friends, tell people, but don't sit in your shell and close down and get so burnt out to where you're like, I hate this church, I'm quitting. You know, so many people do that. And I, now looking back on it, I was burnt out, but I brought it on myself because I was the guy. And at the same time, I was in a position where I could have said no, or I could have gotten more help, and I didn't. And my family suffered for that. And I will never be able to make that time up with my kids. So now when my kids want to do something, they get a yes, because for so long they didn't. And my wife didn't get a yes. You know what? My wife asked my kids, what are your favorite things about Daddy not working for the church anymore? And they said, when he comes home, he's not stressed out anymore. And we now get to go to church with Dad. And so I want to leave that with everyone that's out there busting your ass right now. What you're doing matters. Don't hear me. Don't take that the wrong way, because what you're doing does matter. You are impacting lives like you will never imagine. It doesn't matter if you're at elevation or if you're at 100-person church. What you're doing matters, but you need to put your health and your family's health first. Just because you work for a church and they're so family friendly doesn't necessarily mean that you're pouring back into your family like you need to be. Put your family first. Nothing else matters.
Man, that's a really heavy and pertinent tech takeaway. How old were your kids whenever your wife asked that question?
This was 4 months ago.
Oh, wow. So, but like they're both under 10, right?
Yeah, one's 10 and one's 6.
So perceptive of them at that young age to have that response. Wow. Well, Zach, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate that honesty. We've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of them have talked about burnout, and for a while, those were our most popular episodes. So I think this is really needed right now. Man, is there anything you want to plug? Anywhere people should reach out to you? Or you could say, I'm good. I don't need any more people reaching out, or where should people say hi at?
I mean, the easiest thing to do these days is Instagram, man, and it's just Z Kimrey on Instagram.
Zach, thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely, y'all.
Thanks for listening. And hey, congratulations on surviving Sunday. If you happen to make it through next Sunday as well, join us again for your weekly Tech Breather.
Blake, you know my favorite moment from this episode was when you locked the door that is right next to the 5-foot opening in the wall that somebody could walk right through.
Well, that was just consistent, with me locking the door next to the 20-foot wall or 20-foot opening in the warehouse or the old barn, So here's the thing. I'm trying to keep people out. But you know what people should do? Is people should invite people in when it comes to the podcast.
100%. Maybe you should unlock the door to your heart.
Yes, unlock this podcast for another church tech that would love it. Send them your favorite episode and tell them why. And you know what? It's going to be great. And you could even screenshot that text, post it on social. I'll repost it. The church, gear account's got like 1 million followers. So,
and I know you can't fix stupid, but listening to the Church Gear podcast is definitely going to elevate you at least one notch up.
Yes, it will make you significantly, exclusively successful.